throughout the course of the day. Let's get back into some Cardinals conversation ahead of the Bears matchup on Sunday. And I find myself getting intrigued by different stats that keep coming out about this team. And new stats keep coming out that get me more and more excited about where this team could potentially go this season. There just seems to be a lot of trends that are pointing in the direction of this team having a pretty entertaining and competitive second half. And I found another one this morning. And this one, I think, really puts it into perspective what has happened so far this season for the Arizona Cardinals. This is from Bill Barnwell of ESPN. Per ESPN's Football Power Index, the Bears have played the league's easiest schedule so far this season. They play the toughest schedule from here on out. So the Bears, who the Cardinals will be playing on Sunday, had the easiest schedule to start the year. And they now will play the toughest schedule the remainder of the year. So looking at the Football Power Index, and you look at the teams that the Bears will be playing the rest of the year, that you add all that up, and you get that they're going to play the league's toughest schedule from here on out. This is the interesting part, so pay attention. The Cardinals have played the league's toughest schedule so far. The Arizona Cardinals are in first place at 4-4, having played the toughest schedule in the NFL, according to ESPN's Football Power Index. Now, it's just one metric. It's just one place's basically glorified power rankings. And there is some methodology behind it, but it's just one ranking. But strength of schedule, we always seem to point it out. Who's got the better strength of schedule? Who is got an easier path down the stretch when you're looking at other teams and you're scoreboard watching and you're trying to see if your team can make it into the playoffs, right? You care about strength of schedule. Well, the Cardinals have played the league's toughest schedule so far. And yet here we sit talking about a 4-4 first-place football team with an opportunity to make some noise in the second half. So you're thinking to yourself, man, the Arizona Cardinals played the league's toughest schedule so far, and they dealt with all of those injuries, and they dealt with all of those inconsistencies on offense, and they dealt with trying to find themselves as a group, and yet they got through that. They got through the toughest schedule so far through the first 8 weeks of the season, and they got past that point, and they're in first place. That could get you really excited. Well, I'm going to give you something that should get you even more amped for the remaining 9 games on the calendar for the Arizona Cardinals. Because not only did they play the league's toughest schedule through the first 8 weeks of the season, the rest of the way, the Arizona Cardinals will play the 4th easiest schedule the rest of the way. 4th easiest schedule the rest of the way. Toughest schedule through the first 8 weeks, 4-4 in first place. 4th easiest schedule the rest of the way. What do you think this is going to look like? And that 4-4 stretch included them playing currently as we sit here going into week 9. They have already played the 1st ranked team in ESPN's Football Power Index, the 3rd ranked team in ESPN's Football Power Index, the 6th ranked team in the Football Power Index, the 8th ranked team in the Football Power Index. 50% of their games through the first 8 weeks of the season were against top 10 teams according to ESPN's Football Power Index. And they won a couple of those games. They weren't all the 4 losses. I believe one of those teams, I believe the 6th ranked team is the 49ers. So the hardest schedule through the first 8 weeks, including 4 of the top 10 teams according to the Football Power Index, and they got through that 4-4 in the first place. They now are going to get to the other side of that and play the 4th easiest schedule moving forward with injury reinforcements on the way. Darius Robinson is off of IR, although not practicing for the 2nd straight day, at least in the open portion that the media is able to see. So he's on his way back, closer than he was maybe a couple of weeks ago. Jonah Williams is back out there. So injury reinforcements on the way for this team. And we talked about it in hour number 1 of the show. Potential help is on the way via the trade market. Monty Ossenfort aggressively using the phones, aggressively calling other teams up, talking to other teams to get some pass rush help. Hardest schedule, 4-4 in first place. Fourth easiest schedule, and all the good vibes coming towards this team. Because not only did they have the toughest schedule, but they got banged up with injuries. They lost key players on both sides of the ball. And yet they got through that, and they're 4-4. And so this is just another data point that we can add to the growing list of things that make us confident that what we've seen over the last 2 weeks for the Arizona Cardinals is sustainable and is continuable into the second half of this season. Now, they have to get these guys back. They have to make moves in the trade market. They have to do all of those things. But it looks like a path that is more favorable to them than the first half was. And so to get through that first tough part at 500 should give that building a lot of confidence of what the second half could be. It should open the door to getting very excited about what this team can do. The fourth easiest schedule in the second half. And we've talked about it. We talked about that they're favored at home against the Bears. If they win this week, they'll probably be favored against the Jets next week. They get to play the Panthers and the Patriots late in the season. Those are two winnable. They will be favored games. You give them those two, you're already at 6 wins. 9 wins should put you in the conversation. You have to find 3 the rest of the way. You have 2 more against Seattle. You haven't played them yet. You got 2 winnable games the next 2 weeks. 9 wins, potentially double-digit wins, is 1,000% on the table for this team. And that starts this Sunday. That stretch of games, that is the 4th easiest schedule the rest of the way, starts on Sunday against the Chicago Bears. Now, how does this team deal with the pressure? How does this team deal with the noise growing? How does this team deal with being a first-place team and the pressure and the excitement and the adrenaline and the adversity that comes with that, the expectations that come with that? We'll see. They'll play their first game of the year as a first-place team on Sunday against the Bears. What type of effort do they bring? What type of execution do they bring? What type of energy do they bring? We'll get that answer on Sunday, and it'll tell us a lot about how this team is bought into what the coach is trying to do. And I've told you that I believe this team is fully bought in with the way that they've played the last 2 weeks. That they have played like a team that is completely bought into their coaching staff. That is completely bought into the messaging that this organization is giving to them. And they are executing at a very good level the last couple of weeks. So another thing that we get to add to the blueprint for the offense, for the injury reinforcements coming back, the trade deadline acquisitions that this team could make, you can also add to that excitement, to that reason to get amped up for the second half of the year. They are going to play the 4th easiest schedule the rest of the season. Now, they do not play these games on paper. They do not look at who is ranked higher in the Football Power Index and say this team wins, this team loses, and we move on to the next week. You have to play the games. Football is an effort sport. You have to bring the effort and the execution and the details and the discipline more so than the other team. I believe the Cardinals can do that. I believe the Cardinals can take this 4th easiest schedule in the second half of the year and turn that in to something special. Something worth talking about in December. Something worth getting excited about in December. Something where you're watching the games on Sunday and you're watching the nationally televised games on Thursday and Sunday night and Monday night. And you know what you're seeing? That playoff graphic that comes up, and the teams that are already have a spot or are in the hunt, you're going to see the Cardinals logo into December. That's what these data points point us to. So now it's up to this team to respond. Now it's up to this team to go out there and do the work, because it's all in front of them. They're getting healthier. They're more than likely going to make a trade before Tuesday. They have the 4th easiest schedule after playing the toughest schedule in the league, and they got through it. They survived, and that would be the message if I was Jonathan Gannon. You just play the hardest schedule out of anybody in the National Football League, and look at where you are. You're a first-place team. How about we really show this league what a first-place team looks like the rest of the way? That's the message that should be sent by this organization because it is right there in front of them.